While everyone's coming on, welcome. My name's Willie. We're here with Alex. Alex is going to be doing a haircut for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. If you want, attendees do not have video or audio. We can see you. If you have any questions tonight, please ask in the chat or in the Q&A. We're here for you. So the goal here is for you to walk away with an understanding of how to recreate what Alex is about to throw down on tonight. So
throw down some knowledge.
Some nuggets.
Monday night haircutting.
Yes, indeed. So, well, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. It's been such a thrill to have all the educators and all the brands on that we've had on so far. You know, we are winding down, so it's the next to last class on Monday night. I personally want to say thank you to everybody who's participated in our second event, for all of you for showing up. It's without the artists, without the brands, it wouldn't be possible. And without you guys showing up and watching, it wouldn't be possible either. So thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Pivot Point for the amazing mannequins they've provided. I know you're probably going to give a shout out, but I am as well. I love Pivot Point, not just because of the quality of the mannequins, but how they ethically source everything they do. So thank you, Pivot Point. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank Alex for coming on at the beginning, I guess, probably like in March or April, may have been May, when we were in the grip of the pandemic. You came on, and we got great feedback, and it's always an honor to get to see you cut up close. So I'm thrilled to get to watch. But for everyone who is watching, if you have questions, please ask. We'll make sure we facilitate them. And Alex, thank you so much for coming on, and take it away.
Thank you, Willie. I'm so happy to be here. The one during quarantine was a lot of fun. We were just chatting about how we had no control over our fun home environment at the time. And my stepdad was walking around in the back, and I was afraid my child was going to be running through. But I'm so happy to be in my salon suite now in a nice, quiet, safe environment. So I appreciate the introduction. If none of you are familiar with me, my name is Alex McDonald. It is Zila Mac on Instagram. Zila is XELAMACK. And today I'm going to be doing a shag haircut. I guess a little background about me. I am a hairstylist in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I'm here with my boyfriend who's filming. We're in my little suite. We have a private suite, so it's nice to have my own little space to do this in now. And I am an educator for Sally Rogerson for SR Education. So I have a lot of technical cutting skills as my background. And I've been able to do her teacher training program, which was huge in helping me to become an educator and to learn my body positioning and demos and how to speak and all that fun stuff. So I'm excited I get to kind of practice some of that with you guys as well. So like I said, I wanted to do a shag haircut. And when clients first started bringing these pictures into me, I really didn't have any idea how to do it. You know, I'm a newish stylish, so cutting shags back in the 70s and 80s wasn't something that was obviously familiar to me. So I had to start brainstorming on how I could make a solid plan on how to execute this haircut proficiently and efficiently, and how I would be able to replicate it when my clients came back or when a new client came back. Because in the beginning, it was a lot of guessing for me, a lot of slide cutting, a lot of texturizing, and not really having any rhyme or reason, just cutting it till it visually pleased me, which is fine, and I do that a lot, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that type of hair cutting. But how I function best is having a plan and knowing how to get from point A to point B in a haircut and be able to do that again in the future. And so everybody that was showing me these cuts, a lot of the times the stylist page I would go to, they were using a straight razor. I will admit that I just am not versed enough in a straight razor to feel confident going in and doing that on clients yet. But I do just love my trusty old scissors. So I was like, okay, I have to figure out a plan to do this haircut with just my scissors. I do go in and do some refining and detailing and more freehand work with my shark fin razor or with my texturizing scissors. But I wanted to create a system that I could use just using my scissors and utilizing my knowledge of over direction with this. So the first thing that kind of was my aha moment with this haircut was, okay, everything is shorter in the front and longer in the back. How is the easiest way to do that? Over direction. So I thought about doing A-line bobs and how you start in the back and cut everything shortest in the back, and then you're over directing everything forward to maintain the length in the front. So I just kind of reversed that in my mind and was like, okay, I can start in the front with my shortest pieces and start over directing everything from the back to maintain back the length in the back. So that was kind of my thought process on how I was going to attempt to cut a shag. And it's just worked for me time and time again. And the way I do it, you're able to change the length of the fringe, the face framing, and I'm gonna kind of just show you how I go about my face framing and layering and my fringe. And while I'm doing that, explain a little how you can cater that to your clients and change the length of the face framing. Some people want it really extreme and woolly. Other people want it a lot softer, and I call it like the faux shag. They want the feeling of a shag, but they don't want to lose a ton of length in front of the face. And so I'm going to do something a little bit more dramatic as far as the length in the front, just so I can really utilize my over direction and show a good example of that. But like I said, depending on your consultation with your client, if they don't want that short of face framing, you don't have to go that short. So just case to case. So I do always start with the middle part, even if they have a side part. And this is dependent on if they are set on having like a fringe. I feel like 99% of my clients want to have a full fringe, so we'll just assume that's the case here. So considering they're having a full fringe, I always like to start in the middle, because that's going to give me the best distribution of weight when I'm over directing everything forward, and give me like a nice clean slate and an even balance of the hair in the front. So how I like to approach my face framing is let me turn her here for you a little bit. I start with a diagonal back section, kind of where the head starts to curve. So like if you had a fringe, right where you would start to part the fringe a little bit there. And I'm going to come back behind the ear. I'm going to come back a little bit more because I kind of want some of this hair back by the nape to drop out as well. So I can show you a little something. And since this is a mannequin head, probably going to clip her out of the way since she is a little clean. I just shampooed her. And then I'm going to come to the opposite side of my mannequin head. If I were to stand on the same side and just start blindly cutting into it, I don't really have an end point or a stopping point. So for me, I don't know what I'm building up to. I want to know for my next sections where I'm cutting everything to, instead of just how I used to in the past, like, oh, I'm just going to come in here and do some slide cutting and see how it goes, but I want to know how it's going to go. So if you were doing this on a client that wanted shorter face framing, you're going to start back behind the ear here. And you're going to comb all of this forward. And when you're looking, you know that once this hair starts dropping out, all that length is saved. So you're really keeping an eye on the hair that's dropping out instead of the hair that you're cutting at this point. So if I wanted less face framing, if I wanted it to be softer, I can just keep pulling that over and wait till that drops out right over the ear. And I know I'm going to protect that length around the ear. But if you want something that's going to be a little bit more mullety, then you can just start cutting sooner than that. So I'm gonna start, let's see. I'm gonna go just right before that hair falls out. So I have one little piece of hair there. That's gonna be my length. And then I'm gonna just start cutting up. So then I'm gonna come up to the next section, comb down onto that. I'm making sure that I am parallel to my fingers. And what this is gonna do is also help prevent putting a step in my face framing. So I'll show you a little bit with my fingers what my cutting line is gonna look like. That way I know I'm not gonna put a step in there. And I'm just gonna keep combing all the way up through the top. And already I have short to long pieces. So I'm gonna come around. And since she has more medium hair, this length back here didn't really reach. So I can just address that freehand after I want, once I can start connecting through all that. But just depending on the client's length, sometimes it is nice to match up to that length in the back, especially if they do have like super long hair. That way the face framing doesn't look crazy. It'll still have like a nice seamless blend. So I'm continuing to take diagonal back sections. Just gonna clip the rest of the hair out of the way so I can work nice and clean. That is most important to me. Also gonna clip this out of the way. And then same thing, I'm gonna pull, working from the bottom up. And I like to use my fine teeth for this part, just because I can see my sections better. So knowing that I'm utilizing over direction, I know that with each section that I'm going back is traveling further. So I don't have to, I guess, really guess anything, because I know I'm bringing everything to the same point. And if I were to think of it like off the top of the head, like, okay, that one's traveling a little bit further. My next section is traveling a little bit further. My next section is traveling even further. So it's always going to go short to long. So you can see short to long there. Already getting that nice face framing set in. And I feel like this might be, correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys are struggling with any aspects of this haircut, please chime in. But I know a lot of people that have reached out to me personally, that's kind of the hardest part for them, is just getting started on this face framing. They're like, I really don't even know where to start with this haircut. So a lot of the haircut I'm doing in front of my client until I go in and start layering and doing some more detailing. For the most part, I'm just over directing everything forward to a stationary guide so that it's really nice and seamless. So again, I already know this isn't going to reach. Once I get to the back of the head with this medium length doll, the rest of the hair is probably not going to really reach too much. So that's normal because it's having trouble further. But it's going to look a little scary in those front sections when you see you're cutting off this much hair. I think that really scares people. And I have a lot of clients that come in and they're like, I tried to get a shag somewhere, but you know, I kind of just felt like I got just a little bit of face framing, like I didn't get the full effect of it. And I think people, it does kind of freak people out how much hair you have to cut off around the face.
But that's the whole point of this haircut, correct? I mean, that's
Totally.
what makes this haircut.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can't be scared. If you are scared, practice on a mannequin first, and then just see how good it looks, and you're going to be like, okay, that was kind of terrifying, but it looks like it's supposed to look. But, you know, I think with everything, with hairdressing, we're always our own worst critics, and we're trained to be afraid to cut too much hair off, for sure. But if, in this case, if someone is like, no, I want it super shaggy and short in the front, don't be afraid to go in and cut that hair off. So I'm reaching the back of the head now. I really don't have that much to cut in this bottom section. In the top, I'll have a little bit. And like I said, I'm doing it pretty dramatic just to kind of show you like a shorter version of it and how short you can go around the face and still have everything connected short to long just by utilizing over direction. All right, so I made it to the back of the head on that side. So now I'm going to start on the other side, and now I'm going to kind of change how I'm approaching the other side. I'll explain that to you. So on this side, same thing. I'm going to come around the other side because I want to make sure I'm pulling all the hair to me and not creating a step in the hair. If I were to stand more in front of my client, I'm going to have that like step. As long as I'm over directing and pulling everything to me, if I visualize how that's coming out of the head and coming straight to me, I'm preserving more length, and I'm also getting a much more flattering shape around the face that isn't so steep that will end up kind of looking like a bowl cut around the face, which is super cool if you want to do that, but you just have to know why you're doing what you're doing and the effect that it's going to have. So on this side, I'm going to take a little piece from the front. So she already kind of has some fringe going on, so it's going to be pretty short here. I'm going to take a little piece from the other side, and that's going to be my new guide. And now I'm going to cut from short to long, or top to bottom as opposed to bottom to top. On this side, it gives me something to work with, and I know what my end point is. But now that I already have that set in place for me on this side, if I were to go in and do it on this side, I would just, I mean, I could, but it's not going to match up exactly. At least this way I have some insurance. So I'm going to start top to bottom. So I have my little short piece in there. On my other side, I'm going to check that. A bit smaller section. Boom, there it is. And then I'm going to start cutting top down. Making sure that my body is parallel to my hands, and I'm bringing everything toward my chest. My body positioning isn't changing. I'm standing in the same spot. I'm not walking around with my sections because I want to over direct everything straight to me. Now I know what my end point is, because I don't really, if I were to just go in and start going down, it would get a little sketchy. So I just like to foolproof everything. Same thing, taking diagonal back sections. Again, this hair in the nape probably won't reach because of the length of her hair. And then now I already have a guide in, and I can just continue to cut top to bottom. So I have my guide in there. And I mean, technically, this would be considered a form of graduation because I am cutting palm to palm, not cutting over my fingers. Another diagonal back section. Probably have like 2 more sections, and the last one will reach a little bit.
Can you just spin her around so they can see the back and see how that parting finishes?
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Yeah. Once you start getting to the back of the head, it's going to start looking a little bit more vertical back here, and that's okay because we're working on a round object, not a flat one. So I'm starting a diagonal back from the top of the head, but by the time I'm bringing it down, it's really only slightly curving. So you can see it's not completely straight.
Thank you.
But it does have a slight curve to it. And I mean, you can do completely vertical sections. I always like to do everything on a slight diagonal, especially with like graduation and stuff like that, because it's always going to give you a softer line. If you were to go on completely vertically, everything is going to be very uniform, which is totally fine. Again, if that's what you're going for, but I want a softness to my haircuts. So I feel like having a slight diagonal is going to help with that. Facing straight.
So your body position is allowing you to ensure that you're over directing to the same point. Your finger position stays the same throughout the entire haircut. Mm-hmm. Your elevation maybe changes slightly the further you get back the head, correct? But not much.
Yeah, yeah. And so I started elevating up a lot as I was cutting because I want to go shorter. If I didn't want to go that short, I would keep my elevation lower because that hair has to travel further. But if I start elevating it a little bit more, it has less room to travel, so it's going to be shorter. So I chose to do that for this cut, just to kind of give it a more dramatic flair. And if you guys like love how shags look and you're like, I want more clients that look like that and like I can do this haircut on, just bring in some models and start posting pictures of it. And since I have come back to work, have been the busiest I've ever been. It's been so many new clients and 95% of them want shags. And I get to cut shags all day and it's so fun. And so that's what I get to post all the time now. So everyone comes to me. I had someone come to me from LA. She's just like, I just loved your shag haircut so much. And I was like, oh, how nice. So, you know, just put out what you want to do and you'll be amazed at the clientele that will come to you for it. This might not reach too much, but we shall see. Oh, a little bit. Okay, so now we have our face framing built in, and you can already see that shag shape coming into effect. So even when I turn her to the side here, you have that nice short to long feeling. And they still have length back there. So like I said before, even though it looks scary going in and cutting that much off around the face, it ends up making their hair look longer because you have that focal point that's coming back here and it opens up their face so nicely and frames everything that even my clients with like shoulder length hair that I end up doing a shag on, somehow their hair ends up looking longer in the end, which is always kind of amazing. All right, so next I'm going to move into her layering, and I am basically going to start in the front because I want to kind of mimic the same sections I was taking before with my diagonal back sections, and I'm going to be over directing all of my sections for the layers to the previous section, coming toward me, toward the face. Because if I were to start over directing back away from the face, then the layers would be longer here. So I want to make sure that I'm over directing my layers to the previous one toward the face to help maintain the short to long within my layers as well. So I can kind of get this fringe area out of the way because I already know that's going to be separate. So I kind of like to start here. I'm going to start right near the temple here, just away from her fringe area. I'm going to do diagonal section. I am going to be doing round layers because basically this is like the ultimate form of weight removal with this haircut. So if you want that super layered feel, again, you have to not be afraid to go in and cut those layers pretty short as well, or else you're just not getting that same effect. So just how I was letting this hair back here drop out, I'm going to do that here as well. I'm going to let that hair drop out, and I know I'm safe. I can start cutting my layer. And I'm just going to do this round. So I'm going to comb and cut, comb up from where that hair lives, and cut. Comb up from where that hair lives. I'm looking at the root, and cut, and then take this little corner off as well. Because I'm also thinking I want everything to lay short to long. So those short hairs on top are going to just fall nicely onto everything. So if I were to just do a square layer, I would have a lot of weight on top and it would collapse my shape. But I want this to be loose and free. So I'm going to go in, vertical section. Over direct forward a little bit. Let that hair drop out there. And start cutting. I was also just telling Lily I got the new Monarch scissors and I am obsessed with them. So if you've been wondering if you should get them, you should. Another vertical section.
Can you just turn her to the side so we can see, please?
Well, I'm going to kind of show this way a little bit too so you can see that hair that's falling out. And that dropping out. I kind of want that to drop out a little bit more around the ear, and I can start cutting. And since the hair around the face was so short, the further back I go around the head, you're going to be cutting off more hair than you did in the front, most likely. So I still have my perimeter, but I also have all these nice little short layers.
And you're still over, you're taking that to the previously cut section towards the front of the head, correct?
Yeah, because I want to make sure I'm maintaining shorter in the face and longer in the back.
So how would you cross-check this? Vertical section across the top and look for shorter in the front, longer in the back?
I would do horizontal, and it's gonna be more, so we're just take it horizontal. It's basically gonna be like Mine is where the bangs were, so I'm going to drop that out at the bangs. And it should start to, if you just, since I'm over directing a little bit, if I look at the root there, and kind of like move that forward to where I was bringing those sections. And if you were to pull it straight up, you'll see that it's shorter to longer.
Perfect.
So you have like that nice little short to long in there too. So I'm just going to continue taking vertical sections. And like I said, since I know I'm connecting everything, I'm not really afraid when I see a lot of hair coming off. As long as I see that perimeter out, and this also depends on their density. If they don't have a ton of hair, you might have to start, you know, back at the, more at the occipital bone and let everything from the occipital bone down drop out just to conserve some of that density. But then you can start pulling straight out from there and round up from there. And same thing, my body positioning isn't changing. I'm just going to stand directly behind this whole time. Does anyone have any questions so far? Or is this making sense to you?
I've been sending them to you as we've been getting them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not asking those questions. They're asking those questions.
All right, so you can raise me some questions if you want them. Are there any questions?
No, he's asked. He said he's asking you.
No, we're good. I'm asking you for them. You're good.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Good. You know, it's Monday. Still trying to get my brain completely caught up.
Yeah, I probably confused you. Looks great.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. So now we're coming into the back here. So this is where you're going to probably feel like you start cutting off more hair. So I let that drop out. I'm going to be cutting quite a bit in the back. I feel like a lot of times when we cut layers, we all, you know, every other haircut, we kind of stop like 90 degrees, like go into the corner of the room. But with this, I like to go completely round and bring everything straight up from the head so I can get those shorter layers in. And since I want to over direct all my sections away from me, my last comb that I do before I cut is always pushing the hair away from me. I'm not combing it toward me because then I have the probability of wanting to pull that hair toward me. But if I'm combing away, it's more natural for my body to keep that hair pushed away from me. So just you kind of see one side compared to the other. Like she has that nice little shape in there already, but this is just freeing it up so much, and it still looks like a ton of hair. Like it doesn't look as scary afterward as when you're cutting all that hair off. So again, just letting that perimeter drop out. And cutting around section. And if you need more hair to drop out in front of the ear, go for it, because again, it really all depends on your client's density. And we all know a lot of clients have an issue with density in the hairline, whether it be from age, hormones, kids, damage from color. That just usually tends to be the weakest spot. Just looking to see where that perimeter is going to drop out. Cool with that. And so now that I'm standing in front of her on this side to cut my layers, I am combing this hair toward me. Because again, if I was pushing it this way, I would want to push away and I would lose my over direction that I want to maintain. So I'm pulling it toward me. And I utilize that for just, I mean, anytime I'm cutting hair, I need to be mindful of where that hair needs to be pushed. I'm just always kind of thinking about those things. They can make a big difference once you get to the back of the head and you've been over directing wrong the whole time and you have layers that are way longer on one side and shorter on the other. It usually comes back to over direction. Again, I'm coming this more toward me. Let the perimeter drop out. And sometimes once you are starting to transition into this back of the head, when the hair is getting longer, your previous section for your guide toward the bottom might not line up because hairline changes here. So the hairline that dropped out here is going to be way shorter than what dropped out here because none of this traveled that far when I was doing the face framing. So I'm really looking for something to just drop out. I'm just making sure that that hairline is out. And then I'll start cutting. And it might not match up with that previous guide just there, but it eventually will toward the top. So let me see. So like here, I don't know if you can tell. Now it's starting to line up a little bit. But down there, I'm just really making sure that that perimeter is out and not so much following my previous guide for the length, but more so for those layers toward the top. Thank goodness for backup combs.
I'm sure you're aware of this, but in case you're not, about 20 minutes, Alex.
Okay, perfect. That's all we have to do is the fringe. And then we are good to go.
Yeah, I don't mean to rush you. Sorry.
No, you're good. God, I almost lost the other comb. I drop this purple comb like 80 times a day in the salon, and every time my assistant hears a comb drop, she just looks at me and she's like, "Is it the purple one?" I'm like, yeah.
It's real life.
Sorry. So you can already see she has that nice shaggy effect. I like that the ends are wispy. I like that there's a lot of layers throughout here, but it still looks like she has a ton of hair. So even though you're cutting a lot off, it still leaves like a really beautiful shape, and you still have lots of hair on the head. And a lot of times, even with my finer hair clients, it looks like they have more hair.
Is that Erica or Viola? Do you know? I think it's Erica. The mannequin, is that Erica with the texture like that? It's really great. It's a great mannequin for this haircut. The name's on the.
Oh yeah, it is Erica.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, she has fantastic texture. And so I prepped her with the Alkali, the Foreplay. This is their little leave-in spray. So it's going to help with detangling, smoothing, frizz, heat protection. And then I've been loving their Tame Balm. I put this in wet because it's really just going to help me with frizz. And I've noticed it does not weigh down the hair at all. The best comparison I can give is if you are someone that wears makeup and you use a makeup primer, it's kind of like that consistency. Like it's not too gel-like. Let's see if you can see this here. So it looks kind of like a gel, but once you start working it in, you can see it kind of just like disappears into the hands. It's not sticky, it's not tacky. It's really nice. So I usually will put that into the hair wet because I know most of the time I'm going to diffuse these haircuts. So it's really just going to help with reducing the frizz without weighing the hair down. I've used it on all hair types and I've never had an issue with it weighing it down. Okay, so let's get into the fringe. The fun part.
When you were over-directing there towards yourself in a way, it was over-directing to the previous section, correct?
Yes. So for this haircut, I'm always reminding myself that I need everything to go toward the face. Because if I'm cutting toward the face, I'm cutting more hair off toward the face. So I know I'm going to be shorter toward the face and then longer toward the back. So I'm kind of pushing everything away from me with this haircut. So it's going to the previous one, and I'm able to maintain a little bit of that length coming through the back.
Thank you.
But I'm not over directing everything to that first one, obviously just the previous one. And that's just, again, an insurance thing to make sure that I'm not overly layering anything in the back, especially if they have long hair. Because then that's something I can address after, you know, I need to go in and do any refinement. I can always go in and just kind of do some slide cutting and free up those layers a little bit more. But I always like to lean on the side of error a little bit and give myself some wiggle room. Because we all know it's easier to cut more off than it is to put it back on.
Mm.
Okay. So with her fringe, it's basically going to be the same way I approached the layers as far as creating a round layer. And I feel like this is where people, again, this is another area I get questions is people are like, how do you get bangs that just like hug the head? Or they're like, I have crazy cowlicks. I have 2 gnarly cowlicks in my bangs, but my bangs also start like all the way back here. And I cut everything round, so I have shorter layers back here, and everything's gonna just collapse and lay onto the forehead. So if I'm cutting a nice round layer, I have that short hair on top and the strength from that shorter hair, knowing it's gonna push that hair down. So really all they need to do is just comb their hair into place and let it air dry, and it will just naturally hug their head. So I already have in like the silhouette of the bangs that I want. I already have like that nice like short to long. So that takes out a lot of work for me. Because now I can go in and just easily assess where I want her length to be in the middle and go from there. And then it makes it a lot easier for me without having to do a lot of guesswork. So I start my bangs pretty far back on the head. I hear this all the time. People are like, I just want like little, I don't want them far back. I just want them like a little bit here. And what they don't realize is that you don't have enough hair to push down onto just your perimeter and the fringe. Like it's gonna just keep popping up. It's gonna be more work for the client to have to really try and style them. So even if they are doing a bang that they're gonna split completely down the middle, since I've already gone and put in those short layers, it naturally lays down to the head already. I'm gonna just, I go honestly like the top of the head for most of my clients. I am going to do a little middle section. And again, most of my layers are already in there for me. So this just makes everything a lot easier when you're finally coming to the fringe. So I have a middle section here. Turn her sideways so you can kind of see how I'm layering that. And I am just going to gauge. If they wanted to keep this all longer, I would just let that perimeter drop out and layer this. But I want to go a little shorter. So I'm just going to use my fingers, kind of see where I want that length to fall. I'm not looking at any of this hair. I'm only looking at what's coming out from the head right there and where that's going to fall. So I want to go pretty short. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to do some more round layers throughout here. And then I'm now doing pivoting sections. So that's my main guide right there. And then I'm going to pivot on this side, and then I'm going to pivot off to that side. So I have like a little pizza slice, and I'm doing little pizza slices in between. So now I'm going to come over, and I'm going to bring everything to that middle section. I'm over directing everything to that middle section. So I see my guide right there. I want my last comb to be away from me so I know I'm not pulling toward me. And when you over direct everything to the same spot like this, you're gonna have those like perfect face framing bangs, because everything is connected essentially. So again, I'm gonna pivot to my next. Over directing everything to the middle, my first section. And then if I really want to go through and like connect the sides a little bit more, if I want their bangs to come out further, I can just keep going into the sides and connecting everything, and eventually you'll hit a point where it just doesn't reach anymore. So I'm moving a little bit more into that. I feel like once you realize that this haircut is just like 99% over direction, it makes everything a lot easier. So there you go. I have my one little side complete. now, since I'm on the other side, I'm going to be pulling everything toward me. I'm going to be combing toward me, toward the middle. And just continuing up, creating round layers. Just kind of keep coming over from the side. And directing that to the middle. And this is what's going to help them not be so heavy either, and give them like that nice kind of wispy look without them being too heavy. And then I'm gonna just blow dry and smooth her bangs down. But you can already tell that with this haircut, like if they air dry their hair, they already have everything they need. With my diffuser, I'll go in to just kind of give it a little more oomph or to help add some curl. Even on my clients that have straight hair, if I put some sort of sea salt spray in there and go in with my diffuser and really work it in, you can get a ton of texture. So I'm just going to diffuse a few little sections so you can kind of see how much shape you can get out of this. I like the finger diffusers so that I can really create a nice curl. Luckily, she's pretty much already dry, so it doesn't leave that much more work for me as far as drying goes. For the bangs, I just kind of like to comb them down. And let them dry down. Not even. And a nice little trick I teach my clients at home if they want the little like bang flip, grab these corners, kind of pinch them, and then just set the diffuser right underneath. See that? Again, I don't want to do anything too crazy with styling. I like to just kind of let it air dry. Most of the time these clients do just want something that they can wash and go. So then afterward, I can come in, and this is when I'll use, maybe the only time I'll use my my texturizing scissors or thinning scissors, and I'll usually want to soften those ends, and even for removing a little bit of length, I like to come down on top of the hair, flip it up, and do it that way. On this side, I'll comb on top. And if you're standing directly in front of your client and you go on top like this, you'll notice that if you stand right in the middle, it's going to be a straight line, because when you look from the side here, this hair is having to travel further than the hair in the middle. So you're maintaining your over direction by standing straight. So you'll be straight in front of your client, but you'll still have that over direction because this hair has to travel further from their hairline. And then you can kind of come in at this point and adjust the length in the middle. I'll usually just go in with my razor, just grab a little piece. And move some length there. And voila!
Lots of appreciation coming your way, Alex. So.
Of course. I hope everyone can cut a shag after this. And if you do, please tag me, because I want to see everyone cutting shags and feeling comfortable with them and realizing that it's literally just over direction. And once I had that aha moment,